The morning light had barely touched the crystalline spires of the Galactic Council's headquarters when the emergency alert shattered the pre-dawn silence. Within the Grand Chamber, representatives from over 1,000 civilizations materialized in their designated positions, their expressions ranging from irritation to grave concern. Ambassador Elena Torres of Earth shifted in her seat, taking a careful sip of her coffee as she observed the unusual spectacle. She had served as humanity's representative for just 3 standard cycles, and never had she witnessed an emergency session called at such an hour. The chamber's ambient lighting pulsed with a soft crimson glow, indicating the highest level of urgency. High Counselor Xenexa, an elegant being composed of shimmering light patterns, materialized at the central podium. Esteemed representatives, the translator rendered their harmonic tones into standard galactic common. I regret to inform you that the Aldari Federation's final defensive line has fallen. A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Aldari Federation, known throughout the galaxy for their achievements in art and science, had been under siege by the Stellar Defense Force for 2 standard years. Their elegant civilization, built over millennia of peaceful development, had proved woefully unprepared for the precision and efficiency of the Krax Empire's military machine. Elena watched as the holographic display materialized in the chamber center, showing the latest tactical data. The Krax fleet moved with mechanical precision, their formations perfect to the last decimal point. Their quantum matrix weapons carved through space itself, reducing Aldari shields to scattered particles with mathematical efficiency. The Aldari central systems will fall within days, Xenexa continued, their light patterns dimming with distress. Their remaining fleet cannot withstand the advanced weaponry of the Stellar Defense Force. Ambassador Claret of the Silicon Consciousness raised a crystalline appendage. Have we exhausted all diplomatic channels? The Krax Empire remains. Xenexa paused, searching for diplomatic phrasing, unwilling to consider alternative resolutions. Elena studied the tactical display more closely, her coffee forgotten. The Krax ships moved like components in a perfectly calibrated machine, each maneuver calculated to maximum efficiency. Their weapon systems operated on principles that most of the galaxy considered the pinnacle of military science, perfectly harmonized quantum fields that could slice through any known defense. A soft chime interrupted her analysis. Elena glanced down at her neural interface, expecting another update from Earth's monitoring stations. Instead, she found herself staring at an automated notification from the Treaty Archive System. Ancient Defense Pact with Aldari Federation. Article 7. Automatically activated. The timestamp showed it had been filed centuries ago, during humanity's first tentative steps into galactic society, a time when most species considered humans too primitive to be of any significance. Elena rose from her seat, her movement drawing surprised looks from nearby representatives. Most species preferred to remain seated during council sessions, considering standing to be unnecessarily dramatic. She cleared her throat. High Counselor, the Earth Federation acknowledges the activation of Defense Treaty 2184A with the Aldari Federation. We are now formally involved in this conflict. The chamber fell silent. Even the ambient hum of environmental systems seemed to pause. Then, scattered laughter emerged from several sections. The representative from the machine collective actually produced an amused beeping sound. Ambassador Torres, Xenexa's patterns shifted to what Elena recognized as diplomatic concern. While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this situation requires advanced military capabilities. The Krax Empire's quantum matrix weapons represent the height of martial science. Perhaps it would be best if... Elena's neural interface chimed again. She allowed herself a small smile as she read the message from Earth Defense Command. With respect, High Counselor, Earth has already completed our strategic assessment. Our response fleet will arrive within the hour. The laughter died away as the representatives processed her words. No species could mobilize that quickly. It was simply impossible. 1 hour. Xenexa's patterns became irregular with surprise. Surely you need time to analyze the situation, develop countermeasures, calculate responses. Belinda's smile widened slightly. Oh, we've done all that. It took us about 12 minutes. She gathered her things, preparing to depart for the command center. You might want to watch what happens next. It's going to be quite interesting. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in Earth Defense Command's primary strategic center, her fingers dancing through the quantum probability curves that represented the Cracks Empire's weapon systems. Around her, the virtual conference space hummed with the presence of Earth's top military commanders, scientists, and strategic analysts. Look at these patterns, she said, highlighting a series of perfectly synchronized wave functions. The Cracks weapons aren't just advanced. They're perfect. Too perfect. She spun the display, zooming in on a particular sequence. And that's their weakness. General Marcus Rivera, his holographic avatar displaying his characteristic raised eyebrow, leaned forward. Explain it to us, Lieutenant. Preferably in the next 3 minutes, as we're on a tight schedule. Sarah suppressed a smile. Only humanity would treat a galactic war like a time-sensitive project deadline. Their quantum matrix weapons work by maintaining absolute harmonic synchronization. Every particle, every wave, every quantum interaction is calculated to infinite precision. It's mathematically beautiful. She paused, then added, and completely vulnerable to chaos theory. The assembled commanders exchanged glances. They had all read the reports about the Cracks Empire's supposedly invincible technology. Their weapons could slice through any shield, penetrate any defense. The entire galaxy considered them the pinnacle of military science. Show us, ordered Admiral Helen Santos, her holographic form glowing with quiet authority. Sarah's fingers flew through the data, pulling up her simulations. When I'm not working on quantum physics, I teach dance at the community center. Last week, I was explaining to my students how a single misstep can change an entire choreographed performance. That's when it hit me. The simulation played out, showing a Cracks weapon firing. Their weapons require perfect harmony, but the universe doesn't work in perfection. It thrives on tiny fluctuations, on microscopic chaos that builds into macroscopic effects. She introduced a random variable into the equation. The perfect beam of energy fractured, dissipating into harmless light. We don't need to match their perfection, Sarah continued, excitement building in her voice. We just need to introduce enough controlled chaos to disrupt their harmony. And humans, we're really good at chaos. General Rivera's hologram straightened. What do you need? Everything we've got that can transmit electromagnetic signals, old radio transmitters, television broadcasting equipment, satellite dishes, even modified cell phone towers. We'll create a field of pure chaos, broadcasting every frequency we can generate. Music, static, random member sequences, old television shows, everything. Admiral Santos was already sending orders through her neural interface. The cargo ships are being loaded now. But Lieutenant, won't they detect our approach and adjust their frequencies? Sarah's grin widened. That's the beautiful part. We're not going to hide our approach. We're going to broadcast it on every channel we've got. They'll see us coming, but they won't understand what they're seeing until it's too late. Time estimate, Rivera asked. 15 minutes to finish loading the equipment. 20 minutes for fleet assembly. 25 minutes to reach the combat zone through fold space. Sarah checked her calculations one final time. We'll be there in exactly 1 hour. Admiral Santos nodded sharply. Make it happen. And Lieutenant, pack your dance shoes. Something tells me we might need your choreography skills before this is over. As the virtual conference dissolved, Sarah remained for a moment, watching the simulation play out again. The Cracks Empire had spent centuries perfecting their quantum harmonics, creating weapons of absolute precision. They had never considered that imperfection could be a strength. She thought of her dance students, of how their small mistakes often led to new, beautiful variations in the choreography. The universe didn't dance to perfect rhythms. It danced to jazz, to improvisation, to the beautiful chaos of creation itself. And humanity, They were about to teach the galaxy a new dance entirely. Sarah closed the simulation and headed for the launch bay. They had a performance to prepare, and the galaxy would never be the same after this show. The Krax battle fleet hung in perfect formation above the Aldari home system, their ships arranged in mathematical precision that would have brought tears to the eyes of ancient geometry masters. Supreme Commander Vexcal stood on his bridge, watching the ongoing calculations of projected victory scenarios scroll across his neural feed. Every variable had been accounted for, every contingency planned to the last decimal point. A sensor officer's urgent tone broke his contemplation. Supreme Commander, multiple fold space signatures detected. Vexcal allowed himself a moment of curiosity. The Aldari fleet was in retreat, and no other species would dare to interfere. Source and configuration. Sir, they're human vessels. The bridge fell silent. Vexcal accessed the tactical display, expecting to see a token force, perhaps a diplomatic mission making a futile gesture. Instead, his neural feed lit up with dozens of readings as the human fleet emerged from fold space in a manner that made his tactical systems issue structural integrity warnings. The humans weren't using the standard emergence patterns. Their ships tumbled into reality like dancers spinning onto a stage, each vessel trailing streams of electromagnetic radiation that his sensors interpreted as everything from ancient radio waves to quantum frequency modulations. Sir, his communication officer reported, we're receiving transmissions, hostile targeting signals. No, sir, it appears to be. The officer paused, checking his readings again. Entertainment broadcasts, thousands of them, simultaneously. The human ships, ungainly by Krax standards, began moving into what his tactical systems refused to classify as a formation. Some spun slowly, deploying arrays of what appeared to be primitive transmission equipment. Others pulsed with electromagnetic emissions that made his sensor displays flicker. Incoming communication from the human flagship, the officer announced. A holographic window materialized, showing a human female in what appeared to be a modified military uniform, adorned with small reflective discs. Lieutenant Sarah Chen smiled. Greetings, Supreme Commander. I hope you don't mind, but we brought some music for the party. Before Vexcal could respond, his neural feed exploded with alerts. Every frequency his ships monitored was suddenly alive with human broadcasts. Classical music overlapped with nature documentaries, while mathematical equations danced through subspace frequencies carrying what appeared to be cooking show transmissions. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, even as his tactical officers reported strange fluctuations in their quantum harmonics. Sarah's smile widened. We thought your ships looked a bit too perfect out there. Too rigid. Sometimes you need to loosen up a bit. Add some chaos to the dance. She made a gesture, and new patterns of transmission began washing over his fleet. Did you know that human television signals from the 20th century had a particular type of randomized interference pattern? We call it static. Absolutely terrible for clear communications, but fascinating things happen when you amplify it through quantum space. Vexcal watched in growing concern as his perfect formation began to waver. The quantum matrix weapons, the pride of the Krax Empire, were reporting harmonic disruptions across all frequencies. This is impossible. Our systems are perfect. That's exactly the problem, Sarah replied, her image now seeming to dance slightly as interference patterns played across the communication link. The universe isn't perfect. It's chaotic and beautiful and full of random chance. Your weapons want everything to be precisely calculated, but we're about to introduce them to jazz. The human fleet continued their strange movements, each ship now broadcasting its own unique combination of signals. Vexcal's tactical display tried desperately to categorize the patterns, to predict their movements, but the humans defied every standard of fleet operations he had ever studied. Quantum harmonic disruption at critical levels, his weapons officer reported, a note of panic entering his usually controlled voice. Sarah made a flowing gesture, and every human ship began to spin in new patterns. Now then, Supreme Commander, shall we dance? The space around the Aldari home system transformed into a dance of light and energy as the human fleet's transmissions reached full power. Across the Krax battle fleet, sensor operators watched in mounting horror as their perfectly calibrated systems began to falter under the assault of pure chaos. Sarah Chen stood at her command station aboard the Earth flagship Starcatcher, her fingers moving through holographic controls as if conducting an orchestra. Each gesture sent new waves of coordinated interference rippling through space. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered, her voice carrying the same rhythm she used in her dance studio. "Time to show them our real moves." The human ships split into smaller groups, each adopting different transmission patterns. Some broadcast pure mathematics, endless strings of prime numbers that created quantum interference patterns. Others pulsed with Earth's music history, everything from classical symphonies to electronic beats, each carefully chosen to disrupt specific frequencies of the Krax weapons. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, trying to hide a grin. "The Aldari are asking what exactly we're doing. Their sensors can't make sense of our strategy. Tell them to watch the light show," Sarah replied, making another gesture that sent the Starcatcher into a controlled spin. Sometimes the best way to handle perfect harmony is to introduce a little improvisation. Aboard the Krax flagship, Supreme Commander Vexkel's neural feed was overwhelmed with error messages. His quantum matrix weapons, capable of slicing through any known defense, were being reduced to uselessness by what appeared to be human entertainment broadcasts. "Target their primary transmission arrays," he ordered, fighting to maintain composure as his perfect battle plan crumbled. A Krax cruiser moved into position, its quantum beams lancing out toward the nearest human vessel. The beams, scattered in a spectacular display of refracted energy, turned aside by the chaotic interference fields. Worse, the human ship responded by broadcasting what his cultural database identified as cat videos directly into his fleet's tactical networks. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "our targeting systems are being corrupted by images of small Earth animals performing illogical actions. The quantum harmonics can't establish a baseline for calibration." Sarah watched the failed attack through the Starcatcher's sensors, nodding in satisfaction. "You see, Commander," she broadcast to the Krax flagship, "your weapons rely on reality behaving according to precise rules. But we humans learned long ago that sometimes the best defense is to make reality itself stop making sense." The human fleet's movements became even more elaborate, each ship now moving in patterns derived from Earth's various dance traditions. Ballet-inspired spins gave way to breakdance power moves, while other vessels moved in flowing Tai Chi formations. The electromagnetic chaos they generated formed interference patterns that turned the battlefield into an ever-changing quantum light show. On the Aldari command ships, the alien observers watched in fascination as their supposedly primitive allies turned space combat into performance art. "The patterns," one Aldari scientist transmitted excitedly, "they're beautiful in their imperfection." "That's the point," Sarah responded, initiating another sequence of movements. "Beauty doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes the most beautiful things come from embracing chaos, from letting the dance take you where it wants to go." The Krax fleet's formation continued to deteriorate as their systems failed to compensate for the human interference. Ships designed to operate in perfect synchronization found themselves unable to maintain their positions as waves of chaos washed over them. "Final movement," Sarah announced to her fleet. "Time to show them why humans never stop dancing." She entered a new series of commands, and every human ship began broadcasting simultaneously, their signals synchronized in a way that seemed random, but followed a pattern so complex it appeared as chaos to the Krax systems. The battlefield erupted in a symphony of light and energy, a performance that would be remembered in galactic history as the moment humanity proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the courage to break free from perfection. Through the kaleidoscope of electromagnetic chaos surrounding the battlefield, a new signal cut through the noise. Commander Maya Santos of the Earth vessel Lightstep stood at her bridge station, watching as the cargo bays of her supply ships opened like blooming flowers. "Release the crystal swarms," she ordered, her voice carrying the calm assurance of someone who had practiced this moment 1,000 times. "Let's show them what happens when art meets engineering." From dozens of human vessels, streams of crystalline particles poured into space. Each microscopic crystal had been grown in Earth's orbital laboratories, their atomic structures precisely crafted to interact with quantum frequencies in unpredictable ways. As they spread through the battlefield, they caught the light from nearby stars, transforming the void into a glittering ocean of possibilities. "Status report on the cracks targeting systems," Maya asked, watching the tactical display as the crystal cloud expanded. Her sensor officer grinned. "Their quantum sensors are trying to compensate for approximately 8 million different reflection angles per crystal per second. Their processing systems are approaching overload." Aboard the Cracks flagship, Supreme Commander Vexcal struggled to make sense of the latest human innovation. His neural feed showed his fleet's energy weapons dispersing harmlessly into the crystal cloud, their beams split and reflected in countless directions. "Redirect power to the conventional weapons," he ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. "Launch kinetic projectiles." The order went out, and massive railguns aboard the Cracks vessels charged their magnetic accelerators. But before they could fire, the human fleet began their next movement. The crystal clouds, responding to precisely timed electromagnetic pulses from Earth's ships, started to move in intricate patterns. Maya broadcast on an open channel. These crystals were originally developed for terrestrial light shows. Entertainment companies used them to create three-dimensional displays in the sky. "We just made a few adjustments." The crystals danced through space, their movements guided by electromagnetic fields generated by the human fleet. They formed flowing rivers of light, spinning vortexes of refracted energy, and complex geometric patterns that seemed to fold through dimensions. "Each crystal is like a tiny mirror," Maya continued, as much for the benefit of the watching Aldari as for the frustrated Cracks. "And when you have millions of mirrors moving in concert, reflecting both light and quantum energies." She paused as a Cracks energy blast disappeared into a crystal formation, emerging as a harmless spray of rainbow light. "Well, the results can be quite spectacular." The Cracks' kinetic weapons fired, sending streams of metallic projectiles toward the human fleet. But the crystal clouds responded instantly, forming dense barriers that scattered the incoming fire. The crystals themselves remained undamaged, their structures reinforced by the very quantum energies the Cracks had been using. "Fascinating application of multidimensional crystallography," an Aldari scientist transmitted. "The humans have turned defensive technology into an art form." Maya smiled as she initiated the next phase. Lieutenant Chen's chaos field disrupted their quantum harmonics. "Now we're going to show them what happens when you combine that chaos with focused clarity." The crystal swarms began to pulse with their own frequencies, amplifying and refracting the chaos field generated by the human broadcasts. Each crystal became both a mirror and a transmitter, creating a cascading effect that multiplied the interference patterns exponentially. "Sir," the Cracks tactical officer reported, his usual composure shattered, "we're losing coherence across all weapon systems. The quantum matrices are destabilizing faster than we can recalibrate." Vexcal watched helplessly as his fleet's most powerful weapons were rendered useless by what amounted to an artistic-like show. The humans had taken one of the simplest concepts in physics, reflection, and turned it into a defense that no amount of technological sophistication could overcome. Sometimes, Maya broadcast as her crystal swarms formed a shimmering sphere around the Cracks fleet. "The most elegant solution is simply to hold up a mirror and let your opponents see their own power turned against them." Supreme Commander Vexcal activated his emergency protocols, connecting directly to the Cracks Empire's central military database. "Launch the reserve fleet," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of martial tradition. "All vessels, all squadrons, Space rippled as hundreds of Krax warships emerged from fold space, their quantum drives humming with deadly precision. These were the pride of the Empire's forces, ships that had never known defeat, each one powered by artificial intelligence, sophisticated enough to predict and counter any known combat strategy. Lieutenant Sarah Chen watched the new arrivals on her tactical display, her expression serene. "Right on schedule," she murmured, then opened a channel to Commander Maya Santos, ready to coordinate the next movement. "Crystal swarms are in position," Maya responded. "Though I have to admit, I never thought we'd be using my daughter's ballet recital as a basis for space combat maneuvers." Sarah smiled as she entered new commands into her console. "The best inspiration comes from unexpected places. All ships, prepare for pattern Echo 7. Let's show them something beautiful." The human fleet began to move in ways that defied conventional tactical analysis. Ships spun and wheeled through space in precise formations based on classical ballet choreography, their movements amplified and enhanced by the surrounding crystal clouds. Each vessel's path created ripples in the quantum field, turning the battlefield into a vast, multi-dimensional dance floor. Their targeting systems are designed to predict logical military maneuvers, Sarah explained over the open channel, knowing the Krax commanders would be listening. "But there's nothing logical about the way humans dance. We follow the music, the emotion, the pure joy of movement." The Krax Reserve Fleet's artificial intelligence systems attempted to analyze the human formations, their processors struggling to find patterns they could predict and counter. But the humans weren't moving according to any military doctrine. Their ships flowed like dancers in a grand performance, each movement flowing naturally into the next in ways that seemed random but carried deep artistic purpose. "Impossible," Vex Kell muttered as his fleet's targeting solutions failed again and again. "No military force can operate without structured battle protocols." "That's where you're wrong," Sarah responded, her fingers dancing across her control surfaces. "We're not operating without structure. We're operating with a different kind of structure, one that celebrates imperfection and improvisation." The crystal swarms moved with the human ships, creating sheets and waves of refracted energy that turned deadly quantum beams into harmless light shows. Earth vessels pirouetted through gaps in the Krax formation, their electromagnetic broadcasts continuing to disrupt the enemy's perfect harmonics. "All ships, transition to Movement 3, Sarah announced. Time for the grand final. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each one moving in patterns inspired by different Earth dance traditions. One group flowed in the smooth, circular movements of waltz. Another executed the sharp, precise movements of street dance, while the third group moved in the fluid patterns of traditional Chinese water sleeve dance. The Krax artificial intelligence systems crashed as they tried to simultaneously track and predict 3 completely different movement styles, each one operating according to its own artistic rules rather than military logic. "Their predictive algorithms are failing," Maya reported, watching through her crystal swarm sensors. "They can't handle multiple contradictory patterns at once." Sarah nodded, making a final adjustment to her controls. "That's because they're trying to find military solutions to an artistic performance. Sometimes you have to stop thinking and just feel the rhythm." The combined effect of the human fleet's movements, the crystal swarm's reflections, and the continued electromagnetic chaos created a cascading failure throughout the Krax command and control systems. Ships designed to operate with perfect precision found themselves unable to process the beautiful irregularity of human artistic expression. "Send the final signal," Sarah ordered, a touch of gentle amusement in her voice. "Let's see if they're ready to appreciate a different kind of perfection." The vast expanse of space around the Aldari home system had transformed into something never before seen in galactic warfare. Crystal clouds caught and reflected starlight in mesmerizing patterns, while human ships continued their elaborate dance through the void. The once mighty Krax fleet hung motionless, their perfect formations shattered by the beautiful chaos surrounding them. Supreme Commander Vex Kell stood silently on his bridge, watching as centuries of military doctrine crumbled before his eyes. His neural feed displayed nothing but error messages, his mighty quantum weapons reduced to useless arrays of mathematical perfection that could no longer find their targets. "Final status report," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. His tactical officer responded with uncharacteristic hesitation. "Sir, 87% of our fleet's targeting systems have suffered complete neural network collapse. The remaining 13% are." He paused, searching for the right words. "They appear to be attempting to calculate the trajectory of a human vessel by analyzing something called interpretive dance." A new transmission cut through the electromagnetic chaos, displaying Lieutenant Sarah Chen's hologram on the Cracks Bridge. She had removed her formal military cap, letting her long hair float freely in the zero gravity of her command station. "Supreme Commander," she said, her voice carrying neither mockery nor triumph, "I believe it's time we had a real conversation about the nature of perfection." Vex Kal straightened his posture, maintaining what dignity he could. "You have disrupted our systems with entertainment broadcasts and crystal reflectors. This is not warfare. This is not how battles are meant to be fought." "Perhaps that's exactly why it worked," Sarah replied, making a gentle gesture that sent a wave of new patterns rippling through the crystal clouds. "Your empire sought perfection through control, through the elimination of variables. But the universe itself thrives on beautiful imperfection." Commander Maya Santos' hologram joined the transmission, surrounded by streams of data from her crystal swarm networks. "Your quantum weapons were masterpieces of engineering," she added, "but they were so focused on achieving perfect harmony that they couldn't adapt when faced with deliberate chaos." The Aldari observation fleet, which had been watching in stunned silence, finally broke their reserve. "The humans have demonstrated a fundamental truth," their high science director transmitted. "True advancement comes not from eliminating chaos, but from learning to dance with it." Sarah nodded, then made another gesture. The human fleet began a new movement, their ships flowing into a formation that Vex Kal's tactical systems finally recognized. Though not from any military database, it was the same pattern as the ceremonial dances performed at Crack's imperial coronations, a fact that caused the Supreme Commander to sink slowly into his command chair. "Your own history contains this wisdom," Sarah said gently. "Your ancient ceremonies celebrate the dance between order and chaos, between precision and improvisation. Somewhere along the way, your empire forgot that both are necessary for true harmony." The crystal clouds shifted again, forming a shimmering sphere around the Cracks fleet, not as a barrier or a weapon, but as a mirror reflecting their own ships back at them from countless angles. Each reflection showed not just their vessels, but the beauty of imperfection in their battle-damaged hulls and disrupted formations. "The choice is yours, Supreme Commander," Maya added. "We can continue this dance, or we can find a new rhythm together, one that celebrates both precision and chaos, perfection and creativity." Vex Kal looked at his fleet through the crystal mirrors, seeing for the first time not the flaws in their disrupted formations, but the unexpected beauty in their asymmetry. With a gesture that felt both like surrender and liberation, he opened a channel to all ships, all vessels, he commanded, his voice carrying a new understanding. "Power down quantum systems. The dance is over." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with excited conversation as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session. The crystalline spires outside caught the light of dawn, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the chamber walls, a fitting tribute to the events that had transpired mere hours before. Ambassador Elena Torres stood at the central podium, her coffee long forgotten as she addressed the assembled representatives. The same beings who had laughed at Earth's intervention now leaned forward in their seats, eager to understand how humanity had accomplished the impossible. The battle for the Aldari system lasted precisely 4 hours and 37 minutes. Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Though perhaps battle isn't the right word, my colleagues informed me it was more of a performance." The holographic display activated, showing recordings from multiple perspectives. Human ships danced through space while crystal clouds transformed deadly energy into beautiful light shows. Several representatives gasped as they watched the Cracks fleet's perfect formations dissolve in the face of coordinated chaos. What you witnessed today wasn't just a military victory, Elena continued. It was a demonstration of humanity's core belief that true strength comes not from eliminating chaos, but from embracing it. Not from enforcing perfection, but from celebrating the beauty of imperfection. Supreme Commander Vexcal, now serving as the Cracks Empire's interim representative, rose from his seat. The chamber fell silent, many expecting a declaration of renewed hostilities. Instead, he did something unprecedented in Cracks history. He smiled. "My people have spent millennia pursuing perfect harmony," he acknowledged. In less than 5 hours, humanity showed us that we had fundamentally misunderstood what harmony means. We formally request to establish cultural exchange programs with Earth, particularly in the areas of art, dance, and quantum physics. The Aldari science director chimed in, their light patterns shifting with excitement. We too wish to learn from our human allies. Their integration of artistic expression with scientific principles suggests entirely new directions for research and development. Elena glanced at her notes, then set them aside. Some moments called for improvisation. Earth welcomes both requests. In fact, Lieutenant Sarah Chen has already proposed a joint project. She suggests we use the crystal swarm technology to create a permanent installation in the Aldari system, part memorial, part art piece, and part scientific research platform. The holographic display shifted to show the proposal. Millions of crystals would be arranged in an ever-changing dance, powered by the quantum energies they had once reflected. The patterns would shift based on musical compositions from all 3 civilizations, creating a living symphony of light and energy. Additionally, Elena continued, Commander Maya Santos has offered to help the Cracks Empire modify their quantum weapon designs, not to make them more lethal, but to transform them into tools for communication and creation. Sometimes the greatest peace comes not from destroying weapons, but from finding new purposes for them. High Counselor Zinex's patterns shifted in what Elena had learned to recognize as deep appreciation. Humanity has taught us all a valuable lesson. We had become so focused on categorizing civilizations by their technological advancement that we forgot to measure their wisdom. The chamber erupted in agreement, representatives from 1,000 worlds recognizing the profound shift in galactic politics that had occurred in less than 5 hours. Humanity, the species that many had dismissed as barely spacefaring, had demonstrated that true advancement comes in many forms. In recognition of this, Zinexo continued, the Council proposes a new category of achievement, creative innovation. Earth will be recorded as the first civilization to attain this distinction. Elena accepted the honor with a small bow, then raised her hand for attention. While we appreciate the recognition, Earth has a different proposal. Instead of creating a new category, perhaps we should eliminate the categorization system entirely. After all, she smiled, thinking of the dance that had saved a civilization. Sometimes the most beautiful things happen when we stop trying to put everything in perfect order. The council chamber filled with light as representatives signaled their approval, their combined brilliance creating new patterns on the walls. Outside, the crystal spires caught the full light of dawn, reminding everyone that a new day had begun, one where perfection and chaos would dance together in harmony.